Peace, everyone. Welcome to the Speakers Room Live. My name is Evolve Benton, the Speaking for Profit coach. And today we are hosting an AMA, which is an Ask Me Anything About Public Speaking. I'm going to pull some questions from our amazing community, the Speaking for Profit Circle. So shouts out to everyone who was able to put in some questions. If you are a part of the Speaking for Profit Circle, and you haven't had an opportunity to go on and add a question, please add it now. And if you are here watching us live, feel free to add it to the comments. Also, if you're watching now, just put hashtag live in the comments. If you're watching in the near and dear future, put hashtag replay. Before we get into our Ask Me Anything About Public Speaking section, I just want to give a shout out to T. Howard Foundation, the T. Howard Foundation, a great organization that I had an opportunity to speak with this morning about imposter syndrome and supporting some of their interns in navigating that this summer. They primarily support a group of underrepresented folks to get into media internships that are in college. So the folks that I got to speak to today are going to be interning at places like CBS Studios and BET and some of the top media and marketing companies around the country in their college career. So it was really cool to talk to them about imposter syndrome and just some of the things that come up for us as leaders and as new professionals when we're going into the field. So I want to shout out them. That was a great speaking engagement that I had this morning. And it was virtual, which is always one of my favorites because I get to sleep in my own bed and eat my own food in the morning. But there's also like nothing in person. So I hear that there's rumors that they might be trying to do the event in person next year. And I'm really excited and would love to be a part of that. So the other thing I want to share with you, we always talk about wins. So that's one of my wins of this week is being able to do that amazing speaking opportunity. But I also want to share with you all that tomorrow is the first day of our Rich Speaker Mastery cohort. So I want to shout out all of the people who have joined us on this amazing journey. We're going to be working together for the next 12 weeks to help those folks acquire some 5-figure speaking opportunities. And I'm really excited about the curriculum we've put together. And I'm just really excited about the group. We haven't done a cohort here at Speaking for Profit in about 4 years. So this is the first time that we're doing that kind of model again. And I think it's something great when you go through a cohort experience because you really get to find your colleagues and the people that you collaborate with. Some of the folks that I'm working with right now in our alumni program have been working with me since 2020 and have had the opportunity to build relationships with me, but also with other people within the community. So it's just really been a powerful way to continue to build our relationships and businesses. So if you did join the Rich Speaker Mastery cohort, go and put the word rich in the comments and let us know that you're here. But I just want to shout out those folks for taking the courage to commit and to invest in themselves. I know sometimes I'll have phone calls with folks and folks will tell me, Evolve, why should I invest in you? And what I want people to realize is when you get a business coach, you're not investing in me, you're investing in yourself. Like I'm already good. You're investing in yourself. Because if you are thinking that you're investing in me, when we do start our coaching and business development relationship, you're going to think that your success is all about me. And really, your success is all about you. I am one of the many vehicles that you will use and utilize to get to your goals. So it's not on me, it's on you. So shout out to those folks that have been able to do that. So let's get into the Q&A. And these are ask me any questions about public speaking, period. If you start asking me questions about who does my hair or where I got the books in my background or where I got my microphone, those won't be answered today. Well, maybe the microphone question, because that does kind of relate to public speaking. But this is a ask me anything about that. So I'm going to pull up some of the questions that we've gotten from the Speaking for Profit Circle and answer those. And then I will answer any that come into the comments or the chat. So the first question that we have from Allie is, I feel like my expertise is a niche. Is that holding me back from opportunity? And then what I asked Allie was, what is your niche? And Allie's niche is Shopify. So the question is, I feel like my expertise is a niche. Is that holding me back from opportunity? And I think that this is a very interesting question to think about. Like, when do we become too niche down as business owners to the point where it doesn't do us justice or limits us? And I think that's something to really think about. Like, do you want to be known for the thing, or do you want to be known for numerous things? And I know some of the mentors and leaders that I've followed have said you really want to niche down so that your audience can know what to expect from you. But one of the things I want you to consider, Allie, is while Shopify is your niche, I know your business because I have the opportunity of working with you in the Speaking for Profit circle. And for folks who aren't a part of the circle, please join. It's a free community. If you want the link, I believe it's in the description. If it's not, then go and put the word circle in the comments and we will send you over a link to the circle. It's a free community that we have. But Allie, you are into Shopify. Yes, you're a Shopify genius, but you're also into business development. In order to run a Shopify store or e-commerce store, you have to also be an amazing leader. And I know you have to be an amazing leader because you're an amazing mother. So I do think that sometimes I wouldn't say that our niches um, are a hindrance to us, but they do slow us down to think about how big of the capacity is that we have and how much impact that we're making. And I think sometimes when we just think about our niche, it limits us to think about the other things that we can do and other ways that we can support. And it might limit your audience to see what are the other things that you can do to support them as well. So I think it's important to talk about the process and document the full experience, not just the act of your business, right? Your act of your business is e-commerce and Shopify. The act of my business is public speaking, consulting, and coaching. But there's so many other qualities that go into that. In order for me to be an effective coach, I have to have emotional intelligence. I have to be able to support people with their own emotional challenges and answering their own questions and navigating their own business and their mindset. So there's some psychology that goes into that. I got to know a little math so that we make money and we don't just lose all our money. So there's other parts of me that come into it. And one of the things that I'm working on, Allie, is actually showing up more in my holistic view of who I am as a business owner. So I think for you, it's not a hindrance, but it's important that your audience knows your full story and that you continue to build on that brand story. And the brand story, the origin of it might be Shopify, but I believe personally, Allie, that it can go a lot farther than that. And when I think about some of the clients that I support on a more one-on-one coaching level, the support that they want from me is deeper than just public speaking. Those folks are trying to figure out, how do I hire my next talent? How do I balance myself? How do I not overwork myself? How do I say no to the right things and yes to the right things? How do I make more money that doesn't require me to show up? How do I make more passive income? So I'm having a lot of higher level conversations with some of my other clients. And I think if I had just solidified myself as only the Speaking for Profit coach and didn't show my clients that I've had to hire talent, so I know how to hire talent. I've had to fire talent, so I know how to let go of talent. I've had to make decisions as far as business and money and had to deal with my own burnout. If I didn't share those side of my brand and my story with my audience and specifically with my current clients, they wouldn't know that there's another capacity in which they can work with me. And I think that that's important. So I say all that to say, Allie, that possibly, and I think that you should really express your full brand story. But that's a great question to have, and I appreciate it. So shouts out to Allie for that. And I appreciate you being in the group and bringing that question forward, because I think your question about if it's holding you back from opportunities, you have to create space for the opportunities that you want. So if you want more opportunities that are beyond Shopify, beginning to talk about that in your brand story is going to be really effective. All right, great question, Allie. Let me know if there's any additional ways we can support. So let's move on to the next one, which is from Jackson. And Jackson's question is, how long should our speeches be? That's Jackson's first question. So when I think about the length of a speech, it's really about what you're contracted to do, right? Like if you are contracted to speak for 15 minutes, you should be speaking for 15 minutes. If you're contracted to speak for an hour, you should be speaking for an hour. But you always want to make sure that you're talking to the event organizer or the decision maker of that event about what kind of opportunity is this. Because sometimes people will say, we want you to speak for an hour, but they want to make sure that you leave 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A. For instance, I had a speaking engagement this morning and it was virtual and I didn't leave no time for Q&A. I hope that was okay. I realized I ran out of time. But they didn't make that was like an important part of it. When I looked at the feedback from the participants, I don't think anyone would have even asked questions, but I did leave time for engagement. So we did some breakout groups. They had an opportunity to do that. We did opportunity where they could speak to me and talk about what happened in their breakout group. So there was engagement there. So for you, it depends on what you're contracted to do. People often worry about not speaking enough, right? Like let's say you're contracted to speak or say a speech for 30 minutes. What comes up for most of my clients is the fear that they won't have a long enough speech. So I think that it's important that you practice and you time yourself so you know where you're at. But what's a bigger hindrance than not having enough is going over. And I really think that it's important and responsible for us as speakers and people who have microphones in our hands, and also people who are supporting an agenda of a larger event to stay on time. When you go over time, the person that's behind you is put into a predicament, right? So I was as recently at a conference and the person before me went over time. I don't think they realized it, but it really put me in a predicament when it came to finishing up my presentation. And I'm okay with that. You know, it happens, but you don't want to be that person all the time. So making sure that you spend the time that you're contracted to do is so important. And if you're just doing a speech on your own, and you're creating your own stage, let's say like here on YouTube, or maybe you're going live on Instagram, I really want you to think about having an opportunity to engage your audience in different parts of you. So even here, we go live every week, every Wednesday. You can catch us here on YouTube, 3:30. You'll see me. And I do different things. We're doing a Q&A today. I've done trainings. Sometimes I'll do coaching with people. I've done LinkedIn audits. So keeping that variety going and then going back and looking at your analytics as you're creating your own stage, like we're doing here on YouTube, to see if particularly there's a piece of that that your audience likes more, and then doubling down on that. So an example for me is one of the things I notice is when I put up information about creating digital products or online courses in particular, my audience really likes that. So probably sometime in July or August, sometime this summer, I plan to do a 30-day sprint of videos about digital products in particular, because I see that within my analytics. So I think when you're creating your own stage, you want to look at, does my audience like this topic? Do they like me to speak long form, which is like over 15 minutes? Do they like more short form that might be 4 to 5 minutes? Like, what do they particularly like from the experience? And that's really what's going to put you in a place where you can really decide how you want to build your own stage. But when it comes to stages that you're invited to speak on, I would suggest that you really, really in particular, stick to what you're contracted to do. But great question. I appreciate that, Jackson. And I hope that that's helpful for you on thinking about how long your speech should be. So, Jackson, the other question that you had is, what are some ways of writing speeches, talks that allow us to easily adapt them for different audiences? And I loved it. This is a great question, right? And I want to say it one more time because I know I speak a little bit faster. I'm from California. I'm learning that. So we put words together, we speak fast. That's what people tell me. So what are some ways of writing speeches, talks that allow you to easily adapt them for different audiences? So when we're thinking about different audiences, the The adaptation is really about you customizing it to that experience. So you might have a signature talk. For instance, I have a signature talk that I've done a couple of times that really is about getting out of your own way. And I'm actually going to be doing it at Speaking for Profit Live here in Atlanta, Georgia, in the next month. So if you want to come through, make sure that you put the word live, S for P live, S the number 4, P live, and I'll send you an invite so you can meet us in Atlanta. But depending on the audience that I'm speaking to, I might share different stories and different narratives that might resonate. For instance, today when I was talking about imposter syndrome with the group, I've done that talk around imposter syndrome with corporate folks, with folks in higher education. Today I'm doing it with a group of interns. The conversation around what imposter syndrome is and how to navigate around it is totally the same. But the narratives and the stories that I bring in to resonate with my audience are different. So today I talked a lot about being a college student. I talked about my experience as an intern. I actually got to intern for CBS. So I worked for The Price is Right, Bold and the Beautiful, Young and the Restless, some of the shows you might have watched with your granny or auntie, right? And I talked about that experience because I realized that this group of people that I'm speaking to are going into their internships. Whereas if I was speaking to corporate, I probably would talk about my experience at working to my 9 to 5 and some of the stressors and some of the imposter syndrome and self doubt that came up for me when I got my first assistant director position. And I had never been in a leadership role, right? So the stories change, but the content doesn't. So one of the things that I love to do, especially when I'm crafting my signature talks, is craft a story bank. You got to have stories on deck that you're ready to share, that you're comfortable with. Some of those stories can be emotional. Some of those stories might be healed wounds, or some of them might be celebrations, but you want to have an emotional tone to your speech, and it doesn't need to just be information. So for me, the information usually stays the same, but I adapt it to the audience based off of the story bank that I'm building. And I want the story to be relatable to where my audience is at. So for you, I want you to think about it that way. And Jackson, I know that you're a part of the cohort, so we'll have some time to work together and work on your signature talk and work on your story bank. But you can write those banks a million times and still not know the story. So it's important that you practice telling it, being a part of it, and deciding what stories you want to bring out. I always look at myself as a speaker as like having a toolkit. So there's different things I can pull out for different moments depending on the space that we need. Today we did some breath work during my presentation. Sometimes we'll do meditation. Sometimes I'll pull out some writing. Sometimes I'll pull out different stories. So for you, the more comfortable that you get in your seat, in your speech, you're going to pull out different tools for that. And that's how you really bring it together for different audiences and adapt it. It's really around the stories. People remember stories sometimes more than they actually remember the information. People have came to me and said, "You know what? You shared this powerful story about your mother, or that powerful story about your grandmother," and they remember that more than sometimes they even remember the random statistic that I chose to put in the presentation. So I hope that that's helpful for you, Jackson. If y'all are getting something from today, just going to put the word love in the comments. I would love to see some love in there. If you're getting anything from today's Ask Me Anything about public speaking, and if you have additional questions, just feel free to put them in the comments. So we have one question for here in the comments, and it says, any recommendations, advice for self-publishing a short ebook that's a lead magnet for public speaking and coaching? Any recommendations, advice for self-publishing a short ebook that's a lead magnet for public speaking and coaching? Okay, so what I'm getting from this question, AW, is that you are a public speaker and you're a coach, and you want to write a self-published short ebook that you can use to get more clients. If that's a yes and you're still here, put the word yes if I am answering that question right. So what I will say is this: it depends on your topic, and it depends on what you coach people about. The niche, the industry is so important, because we need to realize, does my audience that I speak to consume ebooks? That's the first question. Is that the media that I want to create for them that they consume? Do they consume ebooks? Now, I asked you this question because I came out with an ebook for Speaking for Profit, and some people downloaded it, but not a lot of people read it. So I learned from my audience there that they like them, they'll download them, but they don't really purchase them as much. I think that if I had made an ebook more about the outcome of public speaking, which I'm considering writing now, it would have been different. But mine was just like public speaking 101. Now, if I had a book that said, a really good hook on there, like how to make your first six figures from public speaking, people probably would get that a little bit more because it's an outcome. So that's the first step. You want to make sure that your ebook has a really strong outcome that attracts your ideal audience. The other thing is that the medium? For some people, it's not. So I thought that the book would do so good. But what I dropped that did really, really good and still does good to this day is we have a speaking for profit speaker fee calculator. And within the speaker fee calculator, you can calculate how much you should be charging for your speech, including your accommodations, including your emotional labor. All of this stuff is in the calculator, and it probably takes people less than 3 or 4 minutes to complete it. And then they get a price that they should be charging right after. If you want the Speaking for Profit calculator, make sure you join the Speaking for Profit circle. If you're not a part of the circle yet, put the word circle in the comments and we'll send you an invite. It's totally free. But the Speaking for Profit calculator, AW, it pushed way more than the ebook. My audience really liked that, right? So, one of the things that I always do before I put together any type of digital product is I validate it. And that means I want to ask my audience, do they want it before I create it? So, you could do a simple post on LinkedIn or on Facebook or Instagram, or send it to your email list, or send it to your group text of homies that really value your work and say, hey, I'm thinking about creating an ebook about the topic. And I see here you say you do self care and peer support, mental health. I'm thinking about writing an ebook about mental health. Would you all read it? Not would you buy it? Would you read it? Ask them if they will read it and engage with it. If your audience says yes, go for it. And then when you're done creating it, reach out to the people who raised their hand first to give them the offer to purchase or to download your ebook. So that would be my biggest advice for you. Validate your offer, make sure that your audience wants it, and then just create it. As far as like how to create it, I have an actual masterclass I think I did on this before. And if you join the Speaking for Profit Circle, if you're a part of it, AW, just going to ask me that question within the community and I'll send you the link for it. But I have a short masterclass where I show you how to create the ebook, the importance of creating the cover, how to get the information written, which is different ways you can do that. You can literally write your ebook. You could purchase some writing and adapt it. You could also speak it and then transcribe it. So the actual labor and step-by-step guide on that is within the Speaking for Profit circle. You would just need to join the circle. It's free. And make sure you put that in there as a question and say, hey, Evolve, can you point me to the ebook masterclass? And I'll send that over to you. But one thing I'll say is this, and then I'll move on. If other folks have questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I think that ebooks and books are so powerful. I was actually watching a short video by a leader in the field, and he was saying how when you are seen as an author, you are seen as authority. So, considering writing a book about the topic that you really care about is important. But so many people write books, y'all. A lot of people write books, but who sells books? Who actually gets people to download them? Right? Writing a book is a creative activity, but selling and marketing it is a different one. So I believe in order for us to not waste time and be the most efficient within our business and our capacity, it's important for us to validate offers before we create them and really be intentional about how we use our time to lead people to ultimately working with us. That's what we want. And a book is great because it builds more credibility, but we got to make sure that we're writing the right book and we're creating the right offer. So I have no regrets in writing Speaking for Profit 101. Shouts out to everybody who purchased it or who downloaded it or who got it in a bundle or whatever it may be. But it wasn't thing that led me to the most clients, our calculator did. And honestly, if I didn't create the ebook, I might have not created the calculator. So I think it's just important to do that. Definitely. AW, I've already written most of the book. That's great, AW. I'm glad you've already written it. That's a big accomplishment. Did anyone tell you that they wanted it before you started writing it? Did you make sure you got it validated? If so, then that's great. You're already done with it. Now you just got to market it and give it to people. If not, you might want to go back and make sure you validate it, get some hand raisers, and see if there's anything else additional that people want to hear from you. Because sometimes when we're in our head and we're the only one that has written the book or wants the book, it becomes a book about us. And really, when we're writing an ebook or any type of book, it should be about your audience because that's who you're writing it for. You're writing it so that you can lead more people to your coaching and to your speaking business. So you got to make sure that you keep your audience in mind. But I'm proud of you. Writing a book is not easy, y'all. Y'all, it's not an easy thing. So the fact that you've already got most of it done makes me really excited about this project for you. And I think it's going to be something really powerful. All right, y'all. A couple more questions. I see one coming in the chat. Okay. Deborah Mitchell, Media and Associates. When pitching for speaking opportunities, what should be included in an effective EPK? Great question. I was actually talking to somebody about an EPK earlier today. Okay. And this is the thing. Through my experience coaching, people want and need the book. That's great. That's good to know. Have you asked your audience if they want the book? That's my main thing. If you've asked the audience if they want the book and they say yes, go on and get the book out. If you don't have anyone to give the book to, then you got to build the audience around it. But I'm excited for it. So when we're thinking about the EPK in particular, electronic press kit is what an EPK is. Because I know some folks are like, what's an EPK? Right. And a press kit, right? It is literally your press, where places you've spoken, where are places that you've taken pictures, where are places that you have been given some advice around who you are, given an award, where are places that you've graduated from, whatever is going to give people credibility to believe who you are and to pay you. So, what's important to include there is a photo of you, of course, image, a bio would be great. I would also include a list of testimonials or references from past speaking engagements. If you can give them a link to a YouTube video that's connected to a professional speaker's reel that you've created so that they can see you speaking, that's another thing that you can add in there. A list of talks or topics that you prefer to speak on could also be really great for your electronic press kit, and ways that they can contact you or look at your work. So your social media, but instead of just saying like, here's my Instagram, it's important that you build a little bit of fandom around your work. So you could say, over 3,000 followers on Instagram, over 10,000 connections on LinkedIn. Like, show them the numbers of the people that you're connected to and that you're building a community, because people want that. When you think about like you going to speak at a conference or an event, the reason that they bring in people that have a bigger following is because they're trying to fill the seats. So it's important that you showcase to them that you are not just a great speaker or a great consultant or a great facilitator of space, but also that you will bring an audience with you, and that's going to be really attractive to them. The other thing I would suggest is any media that you've done. So any podcast interviews, any books that you've written or been a part of, any shows that you might have been on, any type of media would be great. What I normally do, because you could probably, if you're a podcaster like me and you've been interviewed on numerous shows, you are not going to want to include a list of all of those. So what you could do is put it in like a Spotify playlist and then just include the link to the playlist so that they can listen to it, or a link on a YouTube playlist, wherever most of your interviews are, so they could listen to different versions of you. Or you could just share with them your favorite interview. What's the one that you really enjoy, that you really spoke on that topic? and did a really good job on it. So those are some things that you should consider including in an EPK. One of the things I want to also share with you all is when it comes to EPKs, press kits, media kits, delegation is great. It's so important. So we're actually creating EPKs for folks who are in the speaking university and who are going through the Rich Speaker Mastery program. We're going to be creating some amazing EPKs from them. We're also creating speakers reels for everyone that goes through that, because what I really want you all to get used to is being in your zone of genius, which is a speaker. You're not a Most of the time y'all are not like graphic designers and all of that. Not saying you're not, Deborah. You might be one and I don't know about it. And if you are, that's great. But a lot of us aren't. So making sure that we delegate some of this out is important as well. So instead of us having the question of when pitching for speaking opportunities, what should be included in the EPK, we should not be creating EPK. We should be going to the person who knows how to create EPKs, and they should be telling us what to include so that they can create a great product. And that's a different kind of relationship and a different kind of question. The other thing I want to share, Deborah, in your question, you said when pitching for speaking opportunities, I don't send the EPK until I send a proposal. What I'm trying to do is build relationships and a reputation with people. So I'm not sending them over and saying, "Hey, I'm evolved. Da, 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 da. Here's my EPK." Usually I'm sending them over a message to see if I can help them in whatever event or opportunity there is. And then I am sending over a Calendly so we can get on a call. And I might send over a reel during that to say, hey, you can check out this talk that I did about the similar topic that we're going to talk about on Wednesday if you would like to. Because I want them to see me in the work. I don't want them to look at a press kit. The press kit I send with the proposal, because once I'm sending in the proposal, I know that it's going a lot farther than just the person I had the conversation with. It might be going to their boss, their boss's boss, whoever the decision maker is that writes the check. And that's when I usually send the EPK. I know everybody does it differently, but that strategy has kind of worked for me. But I don't pitch with my EPK. I kind of pitch with leading with curiosity, conversation, seeing if I could actually help them. And then once we're in conversation about a contract, that's when I'm giving them media assets and all of that to be able to support closing the contract. So I hope that was helpful, Deborah. And I'm excited to see the EPK that you create with you and your team. And I'm sure it's going to be really promising. Okay. And AW is saying, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Cool. Cool. So I hope that this Ask Me Anything has been helpful, y'all. I'm going to go look in the Speaking for Profit Circle community and see if there's any additional questions. And if not, I'm going to head out shortly. I do want to share with folks who might be interested in joining our amazing community and aren't a part of it yet. I'm just going to share it here in the chat on YouTube where you can grab it. And you want to just join the Speaking for Profit Circle, you're going to go over to school. The link is here on YouTube, and that's going to be school.com/wealthy speaker/about. And that's going to take you over to our page. If you already have a school profile, all you'll have to do is just go on and sign in, and it'll add you to our school. There are a few questions for you to answer so we can make sure that you're human and you're not a bot. And once you answer those questions, my team and I will approve you. Within the Speaking for Profit Circle, we have an amazing course on how to craft your signature talk and how to turn a free speaking engagement into a fee. And that course is, of course, free for you to go through and to learn from. So if you need support with it, I would suggest joining the Speaking for Profit Circle. It's an amazing community, and we would love to have you and love to have you there. So these have been some really good questions. Thank y'all so much for submitting them, whether you're in the circle, whether you've been in the chat. I really want to double down and support you all on monetizing your message and your expertise. And I wish you all financial freedom and financial peace as you go on this journey. And I hope to see you all around in the Speaking for Profit Circle. Next week, we'll be doing another training. So make sure that you are here. Next week, actually, I take that back. The following week, we're going to do additional training. Next week, we're actually going to take off because Evolve has a doctor's appointment and I got to get to the doctor. But the following week after Memorial Day week, we will get back together and do an additional training. So look out for some of that. If you are in the Speaking for Profit circle and need some additional support, maybe you've already crafted your signature talk, I would suggest checking out our 5 days to 5 figure speaking gig workshop, which is a great way for you to get your first 5 figure paid speaking opportunity. And I'll share a little bit more about that later on next week to make sure that everyone understands where it is in the group and has access to it. So thank you all so much for being here. Hope you have an amazing week. And until next time, peace.